This video will walk us through how to complete a Form 1040A. The example we're going to use is on page 237 or 2-37 within your book, and at the end of chapter 2 it's tax return problem 2. So it says Marie Lincoln is a head of household. She is 37 years old and her address is 410 Northeast 13th Street, Miami, Florida 33127. Additional information about Miss Lincoln is follows. So we have her information there. We're also going to use her W-2 and 1099 INT form to pull this information, but it's also summarized here within the textbook. It says dependent is son Stephen is 10 years old. His date of birth is 5/11/2003, and his social security number is 412-345672, and Marie is an administrative assistant. So now that we kind of have the background on this person, we're going to complete this Form 1040A. So I've already gone ahead and completed the top section with the contact information. So we have Marie Lincoln. Her social security number again is 412-345670. Make sure that this is correct. She is unmarried, or at least it doesn't mention anything about her being married, so we're going to leave the spouse's line blank. Her home address is 410 Northeast 13th Street, and the city is Miami, Florida 33127. And obviously, because she is not filling this out or completing this in a foreign country, we'll leave the foreign line blank. Marie has designated to donate $3 of her fund to the presidential election campaign. And that, again, that completes the top portion of this 1040A. So we come down into the filing status, which is where we're going to get started. So Marie is a head of household, so we want to mark her as a head of household. That's her filing status. We come down into the exemptions, and ultimately she's going to claim two exemptions. She's going to claim herself, and she's also going to claim her son, Stephen. We put in Stephen's social security number of 412-345672, and the relationship is her son. We want to check if the child is under age 17, qualifying for the child tax credit, and it listed in the directions that he's 10 years old, so we're going to go ahead and check that. And then we're going to come over to the right side here and complete these boxes. So it says boxes checked on 6A and B. We have 1, so we're going to put in 1 there. Number of children in 6C who live with you, we're also going to put in 1. Did not live with you due to divorce or separation, does not say anything about that, so we'll leave that blank. And also any dependents not entered above, which again does not apply here, so we'll leave that blank. So add lines above, and we have 2. So we want to put 2 in this box right here. So the total number of exemptions claimed will be 2. Next, we're going to come down into the income portion of the form. And again, this is where we're going to use our W-2. So when we bring the W-2 over, again, you can see that this is Mary Lincoln's W-2, which was given to her by her employer. And on the form, on line 7, it says wages, salaries, and tips. So we're going to pull this from box 1 of the W-2, which is $43,600. Next, on line 8A, we want to list her taxable interest. So we're going to pull her 1099 INT form. And again, this is all summarized in the problem in the textbook as well, but I just want to show you where this information is coming from. So on line 1 of the 1099 INT form, we have $500 worth of taxable interest. So that will be put on line A of the form. So we'll go ahead and put in 500. 8B is tax exempt interest. That does not apply here. We're not going to include it, so we'll leave that blank. Line 9A and B are your dividends. If you've earned any money from either ordinary or qualified dividends, you can enter them here. Again, these do not apply. Line 10 is capital gain distributions, which again does not apply. And then come down here through lines 11A through 14B, again, is just different ways of earning income. So you have IRA distributions, pensions and annuities, unemployment compensation, Social Security benefits. The taxable amount of each of these can be listed here as well. So obviously none of these apply to Marie Lincoln, but at least wanted to cover what these lines mean as far as the income is concerned. So we're going to come down to line 15, since none of these apply to Marie, and it says add lines 7 through 14b, and this is your total income. So on line 15, we're going to add lines 7 and 8a, because those were the only ones that applied in this income section, and we're going to get a total of $44,100. So we're going to add these two up, and we got $44,100. So this is our total income. Next, we come down into the adjusted gross income section, and this is where we can make any adjustments. Now, Marie does not have any adjustments, but just to quickly summarize these, you have your educator expenses, so expenses that teachers can get credit for or adjust to their gross income. You have your IRA deductions, your student loan interest deductions, any tuition and fees as well. So on line 20, we have 0 adjustments. We're going to put in a 0. And then on line 21, we're going to subtract lines 20 and 15. Ultimately, 44,100 minus 0, which is the 44,100 again. So no adjusted gross income applied here. We simply carried down our total income to our AGI section. As we scroll down, we need to enter that 44,100 again. It says enter the line amount on line 21, so that'll be 44,100. Lines 23A and B ask if ultimately if you are older than 65 and or blind. So we're going to leave that blank. We're going to put a 0 in the box here. We're going to leave these blank and put a 0 in the box. If you are married filing separately and your spouse itemizes deductions, click here. Obviously, Marie is not married, so we're going to leave that blank. Next, we come down to line 24 where we enter our standard deduction. Now, Marie is just going to take the standard deduction because she's not going to itemize. So on line 24, we come over and we see the standard deduction. It lists here, and we want the head of household, which is $8,950. So within line 24, we're going to put $8,950. On line 25, we're going to subtract lines 24 from line 22. So obviously, we're going to subtract 44,100 by 8,950, and we're going to put that on line 25. So that's going to be 35,150. On line 26 is our exemptions, so we multiply 3,900 by the number on line 6D. And we'll scroll up real quick, but if you remember, we had 2 exemptions. So line 6D, we have 2 exemptions here. So we want to multiply 3,900 by 2, and that's going to give us 7,800 that we'll put in on line 26. And again, we got 7,800 by multiplying 3,900 by the amount of exemptions we had, which was 2, which can be found on line 6D. On line 27, we're going to subtract 35,150 and the 7,800, and that's going to give us 27,350. So our taxable income at this point is 27,350. On line 28, we need to find the tax that we owe. So we do this using the tax tables. So let's go ahead and bring up the tax table. And it's 27,350. Just keep that in mind, because once we get to our tables, we want to remember that. So we're in the 27,000 range. We want to find 27,350. So we see that this is at least 27,350, which is exactly what we need. So it'll be this line right here, and then we need to just find the filing status, which is head of household. So we come down in this column, and we see it's at least 27,350, which is the exact amount we need, and it's a head of household, so she owes $3,469 in taxes. So we're going to go ahead and on line 28, we're going to put that figure in, $3,469. Next, we come down into more credits. So we have credit for child and dependent care expenses. Again, that does not apply here, so we'll leave that blank. We have the credit for the elderly or the disabled, education credits, retirement savings contributions credits. None of these apply. However, line 33 will apply to Marie, which is her child tax credit that she receives for her son Stephen. So within line 33, we're going to put $1,000, which is the amount of the credit for each child. On line 34, we're going to add lines 29 through 33, which again is just $1,000 since we only had the one credit. Then we're going to subtract line 28 by line 34. So in other words, subtract 3,469 by 1,000 to get 2,469. On line 36 is the federal income tax withheld from the W-2. So we're going to reopen our W-2, and we see the federal income tax withheld in box 2 is $6,540. So this will get put on line 36 of the form. So we'll go ahead and put in $6,540. On line 37 is estimated tax payments. We're going to leave that blank for now. That does not apply. The earned income credit will also stay blank. Non-taxable combat pay, also none of these really apply. Additional child tax credit, which again we have already claimed our one child, so that does not apply. American Opportunity Credit for form. And again, none of these credits apply within this section, so we're going to go ahead and add lines 36, 37, 38A, 39, and 40 to get our total payments of $6,540. So next we come down into the refund section. So if line 41 is more than line 35, you're going to subtract these two. So we're going to subtract $6,540 from $2,469, and this is the amount of our refund, which would be $4,071. So on line 43A, again we're going to put the amount on line 42, which is the amount that we are being refunded. Down here you can provide your banking information, so your refund could be directly deposited to your account. On line 45 is the amount that you owe. So if your tax was higher than the amount that you paid in, you will be required to pay the IRS that difference. The third party designee, again this allows another person to discuss the return with the IRS on your behalf. You would sign this section down here along with your date and your occupation. And if your form is prepared by a professional, they will fill the bottom part out with their contact information. So ultimately, after completing Form 1040A, Marie Lincoln is subject to a $4,071 refund. That wraps up this video on completing the Form 1040A.